Whatever the industry you are in today, digital transformation should be on your agenda if it's not there already.
So many of our members at EMIR Boardroom are talking to us about the journey into the digital universe. And what better gentleman to have for one of our successful perspective conversations than the man that really built Do Telecom and in many ways has become an inspiration and certainly a thought leader in the space, not only of telecoms, but more broadly this transformation into the digital world. So I'm delighted to be joined by Osman Sultan.
Thank you.
And Osman, we've just been having very interesting conversations with many of our members around this journey into the digital universe. And so many of them recognize this is something that they need to understand more about. It's something that they need to take action on, but they're not quite clear in the direction of travel. So what advice or what concept would you want them to understand about when they go and think about what digital transformation is really about?
The digital transformation is not only about the transformation of the channels and interacting with customers. This is very often a mistake that is done, specifically at the level in the boardroom, where we believe that we have digitized the way we interact with customers. The part that is related to the back office is, if not as important, in my opinion, more important, because that is the sustainability of your journey. What I mean by the back office is that questions need to be asked about the transformation of the IT systems, all of the IT systems. Questions have to be asked in terms of what kind of organization structure, how the organization structure should change, the entire processes within the company, within whatever is the sector, the people, the lifting of the skills that you have for your employees, the people dimension is quite important. So it is really a 360 approach. And the part that is visible in interacting with customers and changing the customer experience is probably only the tip of the iceberg. That would be my first, I would say, headline, if you allow me to use this term. The second fundamental point is that the transformation of the entire workforce. We are moving, in my opinion, from the concept of workforce to a work ecosystem. We've been in the regular way when we hire, when we put our organization structure, we've been having the so-called vertical approach. You have a marketing department, a product department, a sales department, a network, an IT, whatever is the infrastructure, let's say, an IT. Then you have the supporting functions, finance, HR, etc., etc. Today, the digital dimension will run across all these functions. Today, new skills are needed when it comes, for instance, data analytics. Whatever the industry you are in today, the digital transformation should be on your agenda if it's not there already. Whether we're talking retail, banking, healthcare, media, luxury, every hospitality, insurance, you name them. So whatever is the industry, you are in this double journey of digitizing your own factory, digitizing your own company and the services that it offers, and then thinking how you are going to offer new services, totally new, to adapt to the new capabilities that are, and to the new behavior that your customers and your employees are having using all these applications that are around us.
So what you're talking about there is all this technological change, which brings a huge amount of uncertainty and disruption. So how do CEOs best manage that type of disruption and uncertainty?
Well, let me start by saying that, you know what, this uncertainty is becoming a part, totally embedded part of everything we will be doing. I used to use the formula that we are moving from unshared certainties, because every industry, we used to have our own certainties and we didn't need to share. Let me give you an example. In telco, we didn't need to share much, or if at all, with banks, with film studios, with music industry, with IT industry. That was not something we needed to do. We used to have our certainties and we were doing everything ourselves.
And from an industry that was traditionally state-owned.
Yeah. It started by state. There was not even regulatory environment because these companies had power of state at the time, the time where state-owned monopolies were developing the telecom industry. But if you are today in the media, same thing is happening. If you are in the banking, same thing is happening. We're moving from the unshared certainties to what I call the shared uncertainties, because all these stakeholders, all these players, new players even, all the internet players, we're sitting around the same table, but we are sharing models that are totally in transformation. So the first thing is to be convinced that this uncertainty is an integral part of everything we do. How you manage that? You try to frame as accurately as possible. A formula, my recipe, when I was sometime asked, I used to say, stubborn on the vision, flexible on the execution. Because the execution, you will have new players, but keep what is the vision you want to have. You want to impact your customers that way. That will be your North Star. You want to offer this type of experience because you believe you will be changing people's life and behavior by this particular point. You want to be differentiated through this. And today, in my opinion, every CEO, all sectors, should have two pillars, which are the customer experience and the digitization that we talked about on his radar screen.
Now, you mentioned a few key words there, and that is how this is going to impact people's lives, right? Let's get a little bit philosophical. The technological transformation that's taken place, whether it's AI, 5G, has huge implications from a geopolitical perspective. It has huge implications from a societal point of view, from a philosophical perspective, and looking out into the realms of what kind of impact this has on humanity. How optimistic or pessimistic are you in terms of how you see this unfolding?
Well, I love that you asked me this question because you are spot on the fact. When I started my career in telecom, the quest was what technology makes possible. Telecom companies driven by engineers running after technology. Then when these monopolies started to face competition with the opening of the sector to competition in various places of the world, you saw the conversation between what technology makes possible and what economy is saying viable. So you needed viable business case, you needed to ensure that you are working on healthy financial equations. Today, and what you are pointing at, is bringing a very important player in this, or very important component in these new conversations, the societal dimension. It's not only what technology makes possible, what economy says viable, but what society says desirable. What well-being of humankind says yes to. So this is going fundamental, and we are seeing more and more. We are seeing the impact of, we are seeing all around the world people and young entrepreneurs, and we are seeing young generation that is more sensitive to ensuring that we are doing good. That is fundamental. Now, your question, am I optimistic? I'm optimistic because I've been in this field, I've been in this digital transformation kitchen with my own hands in the last 15, 20 years. And I've seen the evolution. There are conversations that need to happen and be formalized. I don't think we have enough platforms. I've been saying in various conferences, I think that international organizations, trade organizations, I've been making this claim for the GSMA, which is the Association of GSM Operators, to other other organizations within the United Nations like ITU and others. They need to create these platforms for these conversations. This is the proper of world political leadership now to engage in these conversations in order to ensure that what we're doing will help the well-being of people, societies, and the humanity at large.
What advice would you give to other CEOs that you feel would help them be more successful?
Well, my first one would be very simple. 3 words. People, people, people. And it's not only for the dramatic effect, but I really believe whether it's technology, whether it's funding, this will not be a differentiator. The people who are going to execute, the people who are going to create this difference for your company, the company you are in charge of, they are going to be the differentiator. So invest in the people. Make sure that the work environment you create, very often...
Which comes down to culture, right?
Exactly. Somebody said, culture eats strategy for breakfast, operational excellency for lunch, and everything else for dinner. There will be a tendency to start becoming complacent. We started as a startup, then we little by little we had the culture of a startup. We had the drive of a startup. The culture was different. Then little by little, we started to find ourselves, starting to be more complacent. And that's the biggest risk. So we are triggering now a cultural transformation back to the matrices, if you want, like they say, back to the basics. That's one. The second very important point is encourage a culture of what I call moving from the culture of I know the right answer to the culture, did we ask the right questions? Because of this shift from certainties to uncertainties. Ecosystems are becoming more complex. Ecosystems are becoming multi-players, multi-layers. So you need to ensure always that you are questioning what you're doing, questioning the status quo. Humility. Whatever you're doing, admit that sometimes you can be wrong, fix it, recognize that. And that is part of being a CEO close to the people, whether they are your customers, whether they're your direct reports people, the entire company. You need them all to feel that you're part of the experience they live, you're part of, and you take it very seriously.
So that's great insight and advice for CEOs, existing CEOs. You've had a very long, successful career. Within that career, 22 members of your team in different companies over that period of time have gone on to become CEOs
Yes.
all over the world, which is a remarkable insight, a remarkable fact. So therefore, based on that, you're doing something that turns people into CEOs, and that's what I want to know. So what advice would you give to people who are starting off in their career and have those type of aspirations?
Be stubborn on a vision, but be flexible on the execution. Have a sense of detail and question constantly. The two main drives, customer experience. Again, customer experience. If you offer something that your customers feel good about, then you have a big part of the journey is there.
And thank you for watching this very special episode of Successful Perspectives. Of course, if you would like to see the rest of all of our skill sharing videos with some of the top CEOs in EMIR Boardroom, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Emerging Markets Intelligence and Research, and of course to subscribe on YouTube. Thank you very much.